as we proceed. But respecting people's schedule, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And you can continue to enter your business ideas into the chat as I'm proceeding. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar on business planning. This program is being presented on behalf of all of the chapters in the Massachusetts-Rhode Island District of SCORE. My name's Jim Danhauser. I'm a volunteer with the Cape Cod and Islands chapter of SCORE, and I wanted to cover just a few introductory items before turning things over to our facilitator for today, my friend and colleague, Mark Goldberg. For those of you who aren't familiar with SCORE, we're a fully volunteer nonprofit organization and a resource partner of the U.S. Small Business Administration. Our mission is to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. We've been pursuing this work since our founding over 60 years ago through webinar opportunities like this and by providing mentoring assistance to people who are in business or who are thinking about starting a business. Each chapter in our district has a significant number of volunteer mentors and subject matter experts, people with a broad array of different business experience and expertise, ready to provide mentoring assistance to you in connection with your business activities. And we can connect you to volunteers throughout the country so that we can match you with someone who has relevant experience for your business activities. Importantly, all of this mentoring is absolutely free and completely confidential. Very easy to sign up for a SCORE mentor if you'd like to take advantage of this service. You can go to SCORE National website listed there, www.score.org. Click on the Find a Mentor tab, and then click on Request a Mentor tab in that drop-down menu to get started. Or you can do the same thing by going to the website of your local chapter, and those local chapter websites for our Massachusetts and Rhode Island district are listed there. Just a couple of quick rules for today. I'd ask you to use the Q&A feature to ask questions. I'll be trying to keep track of questions as they come in for Mark and posing to them to him during the course of his discussion. It's just easier for me to do that if I only have to keep track of one feature. Also, be aware that this webinar is being recorded. I'll be sending a link to that recording in an email in the next day or two once it becomes available, together with some supplemental materials. Lastly, our facilitator for today's discussion is my friend, Mark Goldberg. Mark is also a mentor with the Cape and Islands chapter of SCORE. He's a very experienced and accomplished business executive, and we're very fortunate that he's prepared to lead our discussion today. So Mark, take it away.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. This afternoon, we are going to talk about business planning. Most people, when they come to SCORE, when they think about starting a business, when they think about expanding a business, and think about business planning, their eyes roll back in their head and they go into a coma. The advantage of the approach we're going to take today is it's simple. It's straightforward, and it will help you on your journey because it allows you to see the entire vision that you have for your enterprise on one page. So let's talk about business planning. Well, when you think about business planning, you want to think about what Peter Johnson said in the 80s at a workshop that I went to out in California. He said, accuracy before momentum.
Mark, we cannot see your screen.
Oh. Okay.
We can see you, but we don't see anything you're trying to share.
Just. Okay. How's that?
We do not see anything other than you.
All right. I'm going to back up totally. Pardon me for a second while I What is happening here?
Business planning should go down too.
How's that?
We see it now.
Ta-da! Okay. In the 80s, I went to a workshop out in California conducted by Peter Johnson. Every workshop I've ever gone to, I always wanted to know one thing when I left the room. When I left the room after a day-long workshop with Peter Johnson, I left with the thought, accuracy before momentum. So in thinking about doing a business plan, what we want to think about is going slow. We want to make sure that we have all the pieces in place before we start driving forward. Too many people, when they get into the idea of launching a business, launch it and then think about, well, maybe I need to think about planning for what I need in the way of resources. Maybe I need to do some planning in the way of what I need in the way of capital. Maybe I need to plan in the way what I need in the way of key partners. So accuracy before momentum. So as we go through today, I would like you to think about this in every element that we talk about, what you need to do in order to gain accuracy before you start driving forward. Well, a business plan has really the primary purpose of communicating. It communicates to the bank if you're trying to get a loan, to investors if you're trying to find partners, financial partners, to employees if you have employees, and to yourself. Because what it is, it's a guide. It's a guide to measure your performance and to manage your business and its launch. And the reason you need this is because as you launch a business, which we did in 1985, you have so many opportunities that are put in front of you. You need to find a way to gain focus. And that's what a plan does. It gives you focus. This plan answers two basic questions. Number one, where do you want to go? Now, if you saw in the intro, my wife and I started a business in 1985. Our plan was to focus on small businesses and their marketing needs. And one of those marketing needs was going to trade shows and events. So we developed a business plan, and this was way before Business Model Canvas came along, that was a step-by-step approach to getting to small businesses who needed assistance in marketing. So where do you want to go? And how are you going to get there? What are the strategies and tactics you're going to use in order to get from where you are today to where you want to be? Now, this also goes for if you're in business, like our restaurateur, and you want to expand your business. So what do you want to do? If you want to open a second location, or you want to add seating, or you want to add to your menu. So where do you want to go? And how are you going to get there? Now, strategies are the what. What are you going to do to get there? And the tactics are how are you going to achieve the strategies? And that's about all of Marketing 101 we're going to talk about today. So what you want to think about is the fact that most people's eyes roll back in their head because they think of a 30 to 40 page business plan that number one is boring, and number two, nobody ever reads through. So what you want to think about, business plans should only be as long as it's essential to convey the message, the story you're trying to communicate. And you don't have to keep repeating it over and over again just because the template you use asks you to repeat it. It's got to be a story that conveys what you're trying to do, how you're trying to do it, and what it is that you need to do. Now, it's also a living instrument. It's never complete. We used to do our business plan at the beginning of every year. We do it in the fourth quarter so that when we started the year, we had a plan. every quarter, we would sit down with our staff and review the plan and update it, modify it, change it, because the environment in which you are operating, whether it be in dog walking, whether it be in writing and editing books, whether it be starting a Montessori school, the environment changes. And all of us have been around enough for the last few years to have seen how impactful a changing environment is. So we have to keep changing our plan to adjust for it. Now, there are many templates for full-blown business plans. Some of you who are starting a business, who are trying to launch a business, are going to need financing. For those of you who need financing, you're probably going to find that you'll need to do a full-blown business plan. SBA has a plan, the SCORE website has a plan, but I have to tell you the best business plan I've run into is from Seed Corp. And this business plan from the Southeast Economic Development Corporation on their website under resources right here, and you drop down and you hit template, is really, really good because it just doesn't tell you to describe the business. It asks you questions so that you can write the copy to answer the questions. And then you can take it and modify it and put into a story format. So I recommend that you at least take a look at that if you need funding for your business initiatives. So what is the business model canvas? The business model canvas was created by strategizer Alexander Osterwalder in Europe. It was designed principally for high-tech organizations, but it is a tactical tool. It's a tactical tool because it's very dynamic and it can be used for brainstorming. And when we mentor individuals and we use this, it allows us to brainstorm with them each and every element of the canvas so that they can see beyond what it is their current thinking. It's also the basis for a detailed plan for operating your enterprise. And it becomes the framework that you can build upon. You can add to it because the business model canvas is one page. Now, why does the business model canvas work? One, it's a holistic approach to your business. So on one page, you get a snapshot of all the components that it takes to run your business, your customers, your value proposition, your key resources, your key partnerships, the costs that it's going to take to launch your business, and the revenue streams you have. It helps you visualize how all the different parts work together. There's one segment that talks about the key activities. So you look at all the activities and you see what do you need in the way of resources and partners to make sure that works. It's simple and it's clear. On one page, you can see your entire enterprise and how it will unfold because it's concise and it's easy to understand. It's in your words. The other thing you want to think about is accessible to all, regardless of the business background or education. You don't have to have an MBA to do this. What you have to do is have an idea, and you have to have done the research that it takes in order to have that idea have some form. It's agile and adaptable because you can change it. When we talk about value propositions and you find that a value proposition that you put forth, once you've tested it and validated, does not hold water, you can just line it out and add a new value proposition. So it's agile and it promotes experimentation. One of the most telling factors in small business enterprises is the ability to experiment, to try things that have not been tried before. When you think about distance learning, there's many, many ways of doing distance learning, just not Zoom, just not web-based, just not internet-based. So it promotes experimentation. The other thing it does is it focuses on the customer. Most people, when they look at a business, they focus on the product or service. In the business model canvas approach, it focuses on the customer. What are you offering, and for whom are you offering it? And it looks at your dedicated customers. In our business, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, we actually had 3 or 4 basic customers that we were dealing with. So it allows you to look at each one of these segments and then design a plan around that. And it supports strategic discussion. Most of us think of our business as operational, not strategic. But when we can visualize the layout of a business on one page, we can look at strategic decisions we have to make. So it makes it easier to understand and easier to execute. The other thing it does is it allows focus by encouraging prioritization. It helps you prioritize what's really urgent in developing your business and what's just important. So when you think in terms of your value proposition, you think about your customers, what's really urgent relative to communicating with them. And the business model canvas helps you do that. It also allows you to step back and understand what kind of resources and financial focus is necessary in order to make it work. So, given that as a background, what I'd like you to do is think in terms of the canvas. The canvas has 9 blocks, and you start not on the right or on the left, but you start in the middle. The middle is not what you do, it's what do you offer? And then you move to who are you offering it to? And then you move to how do you reach them? And how do you interact with them? When you've addressed that side, then you can go to what kind of activities make up your business, the resources you need, the partnerships you need, and what kind of financial background is necessary in order to make this work. What will it cost to launch? And how are you going to make money? So the business model canvas, all on one page, allows you to see the enterprise. Now, the first question we have to look at is, what value are you offering in your enterprise? And this is really asking the question, what problem are you solving? So when we think in terms of the value proposition, we're asking ourselves, what need, want, or desire are you addressing? In our business, the need was training in order to generate a higher return on investment from the trade shows they were going to or the events that they were participating in. Our business was a training and measurement business in the exhibition and event industry. So the need we were fulfilling was training of staff and then measuring their results so they knew if the dollars they were spending were being spent appropriately. So what's so compelling about what you're offering? And what value are you providing? So what gain are you providing in delivering the services or the products? So when you do this, you have to ask yourself, what's your differentiation? Now, those of you who had any marketing at all know that differentiation is the key. And differentiation yields competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is that which sets you apart from your competition, where your customers see no suitable alternative to you. So what's your value? What are you offering them? So it's not what you do. You're not offering training. You're offering performance improvement. It's all about solving the problem. My customers came back from trade shows without qualified leads. Well, the question was why? The answer was their staff didn't know how to communicate. Their staff didn't know what questions to ask. The staff didn't know how to capture information. So when you think about this, you think about your customer on the right, and you have to ask yourself, what are their pains? Well, I just described our customers' pains, and that is that they came home and their management didn't see any results. So you're on the left and you offer products and services that become gain creators for your customers. And those gain creators then become the way that you satisfy customers. And it's all wrapped up in the value proposition. So I'm going to bring this to life, and I'm going to apply the business model canvas throughout this to Planet Fitness. So Planet Fitness value proposition aligns itself with their customers. For their regular customers, they align with fitness goals. My fitness goal is to be able to finish in 45 minutes without huffing and puffing. For casual gym users, it caters to their flexibility and the convenience. They come when they can and they do what they can. For first-time gym users, it's helping them start on their fitness journey by giving them a plan. So the value propositions are alignment, catering to flexibility, and helping them get started. Now, the second block that we want to look at is our customer segments. For whom are we creating value? Well, in our business, our customers were multifold. First of all, there were exhibit managers who were going to trade shows, and they were responsible for events, and they were responsible for planning and executing the event. But it was also their management who controlled the purse strings. Our customers were show organizers because they wanted their customers, the exhibitors, to have great shows to tell everybody what a super show it was and had good results. So we had multiple segments that were our customers. So when you ask yourself, you have to ask yourself, who are your customers very specifically? What do they think, see, feel, and do when they have a need, want, or desire? And why will they purchase or buy specifically from you? Now, the one thing you have to think about, those of you especially who are starting a business, is everybody that you're talking to in a customer segment is already buying from somebody. They're getting their needs, wants, and desires serviced by somebody. So what is it that you're offering, your differentiator, that you will get their attention and get them to move from their current source of supply to you? And what are your customer demographics? Where are they located? What are their social demographics or age group? Who are they? How can you describe them in detail? I had a client that was in the young female adult clothing business. And she had several layers of customers, but they were global. So you want to define who your customer is, where they're located, where they fit into the social sphere, so that you can define how to reach them more effectively. So to convey your value proposition, you have to identify very clearly who your target customers are, and then you have to keep refining it because it changes. Well, for Planet Fitness, their customer segments were regular gym users, casual gym users, and first-timers. So when you want to think about it, their customer segments are very focused in these three elements. So they design their offerings around them. The third block is an extremely interesting one today because it's the channels of communications. How will you reach these customer segments? I had a client in Chicago last week who has been in business for 10 years, and she's having a terrible time reaching one segment of her customer audience. Part of her customer audience are consumers like you and I. Part of them are corporations who buy her services as a benefit. She normally reaches them through digital channels, but the digital channels are being ignored. So she's having to look and ask the question, what channels are her customers tuned into today so she can reach them to communicate her messaging? So you have to ask yourself, how do your target customers get their information? Do they read newspapers? Do they read magazines? Are they online? Do they use social media? Are they more tuned into traditional communications versus digital communications? How do they get their information? And in order to know that, you've got to ask them. And how's your value proposition going to be promoted to them and communicated to them so they understand what it is you're offering them to meet their needs, wants, and desires and solve their problems? Then you have to ask yourself, is it working? Many of us use all kinds of marketing channels and have no idea whether they're working or not. So we want to ask ourselves, how do our customer segments get their information so that you can reach them? And the only way you can do that really is ask them, where do they get their information? For example, if somebody wants to get information to me, the very first place I go in the morning to get information, I read the digital edition of the Cape Cod Times. I then look at the headlines in the New York Times. If I like something, I'll dig down. I then look at LinkedIn. And before I stop and get my first cup of coffee, I'll take a look at Facebook and see what's in the community sections that appeal to me. So in order to reach me, you've got to understand how I get my information. But the one thing I really like is I love getting postcards. When I get a postcard in the mail, I love it. So you've got to look at your customer segments and ask them, how do they like to get their information so you can communicate with them? Well, when you look,
Mark, we do have a question on that.
Sure.
Tina Campbell asks, to what level in business should I control where customers get their information?
I'm not sure what control means, but maybe she can tell you what control means. You mean?
Okay. Why don't you keep going and then Tina can clarify her question.
Okay. So when you look at Planet Fitness, their channels are their franchise model and their online platforms that drive people to their fitness gyms. So now here's the key. The beauty of Business Model Canvas is you can stop. You do the value proposition, you define who your customer segments are, you define how you think you can reach them, and then you validate it. You go out and validate your assumptions. You've made assumptions as to what your value propositions are. You've made assumptions on who the customer segments are specifically. And you made assumptions on how you think you can communicate with them. Go out and talk to these customer segments. Go out and test what your ideas are. Then come back and modify if necessary, change if necessary, and then move forward. So when we think about this, this is the beauty of it, because you don't go the whole plan and have somebody say to you, well, wait a minute. You do that yourself. You go through and validate the plan. Jim, you got an answer? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. So the next thing we want to look at is, what kind of relationships do we want with our customers? Now, what does that mean? Does that mean, do you sell them and communicate with them once a year? Do you communicate with them on a monthly basis? For example, our lawn service comes once a month if we had a lawn service. Our newspaper person comes once a day, hopefully, to deliver the newspaper, the Wall Street Journal. So what's the relationship you want with them? If the dog walking business, is this once a week? Is it on weekends only? What kind of relationship do you have with them? How do you want to connect with them? And how do you want the sale to continue? Now, for the most part, our customers, when my wife and I had our business, we dealt with them on an ongoing basis, but we interact with them prior to their major shows and events. So it might be 3 or 4 times a year. It might be, for some customers, once a year at their annual sales meeting. It might be that we communicate with them all throughout the entire year by helping with their newsletters. So it just depends on your customer, your business, but you have to define what kind of relationship you want with them. So you need to understand, how do you acquire, how do you retain, and how do you grow your customer base? Some of you will acquire a customer, retain them through excellent customer service and providing great products that they will tell other people about. Others will grow your customers by offering additional products and services. So you need to ask yourself, how do you want this relationship to start, to maintain, and to grow? So your customer relationship element is that your value proposition needs to align with them so that you can determine what it is their needs are and when their needs are, so you can interact with them. Now,
Mark, let me
then,
stop you for just a second.
yep,
It was a question that came up about validation when you were
yep,
talking about that.
yep.
How do you go about validating without any revenue when you're just starting?
Okay. You identify your customer segments and find customer segments that you defined locally. You get in the car, get on the phone, you email and set up an appointment to talk to them. And really, that's the only way you can do it, because what you need to do is have some kind of interaction with a target customer, so that not only can you ask questions, but you can have a dialogue and learn from them. Because for the most part, most of us who start and launch a business, we do it in a vacuum. Some of us do it because we've heard about it someplace else. We have utilized what we've heard and learned to form the basis. But talking to your customer, your potential customer segments, is the best way to do it. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Another question. Somebody asked, is there a place they can download the BMC template?
Absolutely. You can get it on our SCORE website, our chapter website, or you can go online to www.strategizer.com and download it.
And then finally, I think Tina Campbell's question was, how much should I control how the customer obtains indirect versus direct information about my business?
I think the only thing you can do, my experience is control the direct. And what you hope is that people that you have and customers that you have directed information to will share it, and new customer segments reach that indirectly and get the information. One of the values of, for example, the Google My Business is people will provide feedback. So people get information about your business indirectly. You haven't directed it to them. You haven't boosted a posting to that particular segment, but they have seen what you have done by viewing feedback that's on your Google My Business page, for example. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think also there's probably the question about when people get information from word of mouth and they get information from Yelp and otherwise, there's not so much you can do about it.
Right. Word of mouth. Let me say this. Word of mouth is still the most powerful tool. We asked a client of ours that opened a restaurant, what marketing tools have worked best for them since they opened 2 years ago? And word of mouth. People come, have a great experience, they tell somebody else, those people tell other people. Our business, after probably 10, 12 years, we virtually did no advertising or promotion, other than we kept our website updated, because all of our business came from word of mouth. People said, if you want to improve your performance at trade shows and events, you need to contact Marketech 360. Okay, so when you look at customer relationships for Planet Fitness, there's a self-service and a supportive environment. You walk in, you say, I need some help with this piece of equipment. They provide that piece of equipment that help, but they won't necessarily do that the next time you come in. So it's one-off. All right, so let's move to the other side of the model, and that is your activities. Those of you who have started a small business know that all of us who are solopreneurs do everything. But one of the things you want to think about is you don't have to do everything. And if you're trying to do everything, some things aren't being done well. So what you want to think about is what key activities does your value proposition require you to fulfill? So you have to ask yourself, what are the activities that provide you with competitive advantage? What provides you with your differentiation? And what are the key activities that you need in order to function? You do this so that you can identify what you can delegate, what you can offload to subcontractors, partners, or strategic resources so that you can focus on providing the value propositions that will continue to grow your enterprise. So when you think about the activities, for example, I am very linear. Anybody who looks at any of my notes, I have Roman numeral 1, AB, Roman numeral 2, AB sub 1. My partner is very, very clinical. I mean, very creative. And she looks at everything from the creative side. Well, what you want to do is think in terms of what can you do well and what can you not do well? And then decide who can do that. So in our business, I had a person who did all of our creative. I would identify what we needed. My wife would outline it and give it to our creative designer, our graphic designer, and he would create our workshop brochures. He would create our promotional brochures. He helped us with what we needed to do to design our website. When we first started our business, we did workshops, and all of our workshops had slides rather than, because PowerPoint wasn't invented yet. I had a slide maker. I offloaded the slide making. I had an accountant. Now, I did all my QuickBooks because I wanted to keep track of where the cash was in our business, because I managed the business by cash. Every morning, I knew how much was in the bank, how much we owed, how much was owed to us. But I had an accountant that once a month would look over my input and make sure that everything tied together. So at the end of the year, I didn't have a big tax bill and I didn't have a big bill for my tax accountant. So think in terms of what activities. So if you're a business like the dog walking business or the restaurant, you have marketing. Now, if you're a marketer, you can do it yourself. But if you're not, you might want to get a marketing services person to assist you. Sales, distribution, delivery, follow-up. These are all activities that promote your value. Now, one of the things you want to think about in designing your business, there are two elements that the owner of a business must be doing themselves or managing themselves. One is sales, that's revenue generation. And secondly is cash management. The number one reason why most small businesses fail is they run out of money. And I can tell you from first experience that it's easy to do. But we're not going to get into that because that would take another hour. All right, so Planet Fitness, their key activities is establish fitness centers and creating an inclusive environment where people feel a part of the gym. Well, once we've done that, we need to take a look at those activities and ask ourselves, who are our key suppliers? Who are our key partners? Who are those that can help us execute the business? The computer repair, the wood-fired grill, the Montessori schools. Who are the people that can help you undertake the business as either your partners or your suppliers? Well, your first partner is your bank. whether you need a loan or not, your bank is a key resource to you. And sharing your business model canvas with your banker is very important because they may have ideas for you that can help you grow your business, expand your business, make your business more profitable. Your suppliers are all partners to you. They can provide you a line of credit if necessary, but they also can help you decide on what products and services you may need in order to make your business more effective and efficient. Those of you who ship product is your transport. Now, there are other partners. For example, we had a number of strategic alliances, and those strategic alliances were exhibit builders. So every time they built an exhibit that was in excess of $250,000, they offered free training at the first show. That gave us the opportunity to do training or measurement for them, and then gave us the opportunity to sell to them in the future. And we strategically shared back with them. We had joint ventures where we had ventures with marketing services agencies. So what you want to think about is, where are your partners and how can they help you in executing the launch or executing the growth of your business? Now, for Planet Fitness, their key partners are their equipment manufacturers, their fitness apparel brands they sell, and the maintenance service providers that they have. So think in terms of who are your partners and how it is that they can help you in developing the foundation upon which your business can be formed and expand. So when you ask yourself the activities, you want to make sure the type of partners you're going to utilize are fit with your economics. And we'll talk about economics in just a minute. So you want to cultivate your buying and selling relationships to maximize the advantages and the efficiencies that can help you with your business model. The seventh block is resources. And you need to look at resources differently than partners, because the resources are those that provide you with support. And they're your strategic and unique assets that your business requires in order to be successful. Financing, physical plant and logistics, intellectual property, whether it be software or protecting your patents or your intellectual property. So you have to ask yourself, what do you specifically need to do to attract and keep employees? And what are your human capital requirements for the computer repair and consulting? Who do you need in order to be your support in your business? So what are the must-haves in your resources when you look at strategic resources? Well, human, it may be knowledge. It may be continuously learning. It may be developing skills. It may be providing the abilities in order to execute the events. It may be the talents that you need in order to provide customer service. It might be financial. Some of you may need startup funding. Some of you may need operating funding through lines of credit. I don't see anybody here who's really doing research and development, but research and development financial. Or growing your business. What do you need in order to grow the business and expand the business in the way of financial? So you also want to look at physical as well as intellectual. Intellectual is very important because some of you need to protect your approach to doing business. We had that issue always because people always wanted to copy what we were doing. And we had clients who tried to copy what we were doing and do it themselves. And we had a number of cease and desist letters that went out. So you need to understand, what is your intellectual property and how do you need to protect it, whether it be through trademarks, patents, or other forms of intellectual property protection. So their key resources for Planet Fitness was their gym facilities and their brand reputation. Well, now we get down to the area that many people start getting little quivery about, and that is the financial side. So you have to ask yourself, what's it going to take you to launch this business? What's it going to take you to operate this business? Where are you going to get the resources in order to operate this business? When we did our initial launch budget, we identified the amount of money that we thought we'd need. And luckily, we had enough savings that we put $16,000 into a savings account. And we said that was our cushion to get started. Now, it took us 4.5 months before we got our first paying client. So we utilized some of that. So what you want to think about is understanding, what are your fixed costs in starting your business? What are your variable costs in starting and operating your business? What becomes your economies of scale? Where do you break even? What are your most important costs? And what key resources are most expensive? And what can you do with or do without as you launch your business? And how do you maintain positive cash flow? So we want to think in terms of looking at this business from a cash flow standpoint always, no matter whether your business is writing books and publishing, whether it be dog walking, whether it be coaching or consulting. Because you have to know always, what do you have in the bank? How much money is owed to you by customers from work completed? How much do you owe? So that you're always in a positive cash flow statement position as long as you can. So when you look at Planet Fitness, they have real estate expenses, they have staff salaries, they have equipment costs, they have operating costs and maintenance costs. So the important one, where are you going to get your revenue? Where are your revenue streams? What value do your customers put on what they're willing to pay for your value proposition? Because this is how the business will stay afloat. So the question is, how much revenue can you expect from each customer segment? Where's the revenue streams from each customer segment? Do you offer both products and services? For example, if you're dog walking, do you have revenue streams of walking dogs, of sitting dogs, of house visits? Do you have multiple streams? And how are you going to balance those streams of revenue? If you have coaching and consulting, how are you going to balance the time that it takes to coach versus consult? Are you offering a product? Are you offering a book along with your coaching and consulting services? So you need to think in terms of your customers. Do you have a revenue stream that's monthly? If you're coaching, do you get a monthly or stipend from them? Or is it a one-time sale? If you're doing dog walking once a week, do you get paid on a monthly basis or you get paid every time you walk? So you want to ask yourself, do you have a few customers or many customers? Now, we offered both product and service. Our training and measurement were both services, but we offered software so that they could manage their measurement. We offered software so they could do self-paced training. We offered virtual training where they could actually do it online. So we had multiple streams of revenue. And what we looked at every year is what percentage of our total revenue objective would come from each stream, and did we need to modify our customer segments to achieve those objectives? So when you look at this last block, you have to ask yourself, are your value propositions in alignment with your revenue? And always look at those two and make sure that they're in balance. So when you look at Planet Fitness, they get membership from membership fees. I pay $10 a month. Retail merchandise, if I want a shirt, a hat, or a bottle, water bottle, and also franchise sales. So there is actually an additional block that is not on the business model canvas that I encourage all of you to use, and that is competition. Every single one of us has competition. And the number one competitor we have is our own customers or prospective customers, because they can say no. So we have to figure out why they're buying, what we will need to do in order for them to say yes. So we need to look at our competition. We need to look at where they are, who they are, what is their brand message, what's their brand values, what are they offering in the way of products and services, what's the focus of their business. We had an ice cream shop. Two people came from Rhode Island, and they wanted to open an ice cream shop on Cape Cod. They wanted to open in our town, West Dennis. So the first question we asked them was, how many other ice cream shops are there in West Dennis and Dennis? Because there are 5 villages in Dennis. They didn't know. So they went out and started looking. There are 3 ice cream shops in a mile stretch of Route 28 in West Dennis. So we asked them, well, what is your differentiator? And they said, well, we're going to offer acai bowls. So we asked them, well, how many other competitors offer acai bowls? They went out and looked. There's 6 in Dennis. So you need to understand your competition. You understand what other dog walkers are there? What's your differentiator? You need to understand how many other coaches are there, executive coaches are there? What's their differentiator? What are they offering that you're not offering? People used to ask us, well, you have 4 other competitors. What makes you different? And we said, our approach is marketing. We consider trade shows and events a marketing tool. And that was our differentiator. So what you want to think about is, what is your differentiator? Who are your competitors? What are they doing? And how will you fit into the competitive landscape? So when you look at the business model canvas, I encourage you to look at it from a little bit different level, and that is top down. There's business value, and customer infrastructure. So you got business on one side, customer infrastructure on the other side. From business infrastructure standpoint, it's your key partners, your activities, and your resources. From your customers side, it's the customers, the customer relationships, and the channel. In the middle is your offer, your value propositions, and what will it cost you to supply that value proposition, and what kind of revenue will you get from offering those solutions. So you see, it all fits together, and when you can do it on one page, it allows you to see the whole picture together. Now, Churchill said it better than anybody. Those who fail to plan to fail. So I'd like you to leave you with that thought, because if you jump into a business, if you jump into trying to launch an enterprise without thinking through, what are you offering? To whom are you offering it? How are you going to reach them? What kind of activities will make up the business? Who will you partner with? Who will you get resources from? What will it cost you to enter this business, and how will you generate revenue? You're going to find yourself chasing your own tail. So I will stop now and turn it back over to Jim and address any questions you have or comments you have about Business Model Canvas, the simpler way.
We've addressed a number of them along the way, Mark. Someone asks, what are your thoughts on meeting with a few banks to share the business plan with them?
Absolutely outstanding. In fact, the approach that I take as a mentor, and I just did it with a client, he finished his draft plan. It gave enough information as to what he's trying to do. He did a cash flow forecast for 12 months. I shared that with 3 funders, and 3 of them came back and said, we want to talk to him. So not only does it give you an idea of whether your business is fundable, but it also gives you feedback from the outset because they will tell you what they think works or doesn't work.
One important addition that I would have for that is that cash flow forecast for the first 12 months is really important if you're going to go start talking to banks.
Yep.
Joseph, if you would enter your question into the chat or the Q&A. Couple of questions have come in. How many pages should a business plan be approximately?
As long as it takes to tell the story. If you can tell it in 1 page, that's fine. But most of them end up being 12 to 15 pages. On the outside, I've seen them 30 and 40 pages. I'll tell you, when you think about business plans, most people think about investment capital, investors. One of my clients for a number of years was an investment house. They would get a business plan. They would read the executive summary. If it clicked, they'd read a little bit more. If it didn't, they threw it out. So you have to be able to tell the story succinctly and as clearly as you possibly can. They're looking for what is the story? What is the business? How will the business operate? How will they gain confidence that you are the one that can operate, manage, and pay the loan back? So it's only as long as it takes to tell the story well. There's no secret.
And no longer because you get no reward for length.
Yeah, there's no reward in heaven for long business plans.
How do I get startup funding for a new LLC?
That's a question that's asked daily. Grants, for the most part, are not available. So you need to think in terms of how much capital do you have, and to a skin in the game, if you will, and then go to lenders who are looking to lend to start up businesses. For example, on the Cape, Coastal Community Capital is one, Eastern Bank is one, Cape Cod 5 is another, the Coop, they all invest in startups, but you have to have a substantial amount of money of your own to as skin in the game to make sure that they will be interested in pursuing the potential loan.
You should also assume that your personal credit will be important. Right. And you will probably have to be considering signing a personal guarantee because the financial institution will want to know that, in fact, you have confidence in the proposed business.
Right.
What other financial projections are required other than cash flow for 12 months?
A P&L, profit and loss statement for at least the first year, but preferably the first 2 years. I haven't seen anybody really look at balance sheets, but certainly the P&L and cash flow.
And that's really if you're going to seek a loan.
Right. But I would say even if you're not going to look for a loan, you
Correct.
need to do
on the cash flow for sure.
You need to do a cash flow for sure. It's so important. I can't tell you how important it is. When I go in the bank today, they ask me, do you need my balance? I said, no, I've been in the habit of looking at my balance every day. You need to know how much cash you have all the time, how much is owed to you, and how much you owe. You need to be disciplined on accounts receivables. If you offer proposals that have a down payment, you don't start until you get the down payment. If you have a down payment with progress payments until the completion of the program, if you have a Montessori school that has monthly and you get people that get behind, you need to stay on top of it. On the 29th day, when you offer 30-day terms, you need to have that out ready to contact them on the 30th day if they haven't paid. It's that important.
And the reason is that that's your money.
Right.
Somebody asked, what is a personal guarantee? That just means that if a business takes a loan, you as the founder would sign personally and be personally responsible for that loan. They wouldn't necessarily put a mortgage on your house, but they would absolutely have the right to sue you for the money if the loan isn't repaid. You can also consider in Massachusetts filing for a homestead exemption, which would keep your home up to a certain value out of the reach of creditors. Well, Mark, I'm not seeing any additional questions coming in. Folks, I will be sending you an email in the next couple of days, which will have the link to the recording, as well as an appendix which covers more detailed business plans than just the business model canvas. And yes, Samantha, SCORE Business Mentors absolutely will help you with putting a business plan together. I would encourage you to reach out to your local chapter for any help you might wish. And with that, I think we will call the day to a close. Thanks very much, everybody, for your time and attention. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, everybody.